Alright people, this has been one I've been waiting to do. At this point I've talked about a lot of positivity. I've defended movies that kind of get mixed reactions and get overshadowed by the larger titles. But now, I've hit the point of a movie I cannot defend. Before I chop this up, be sure to hit that notification bell to stay up to date with all the content I have coming. We still got the AVP series and the Alien prequel series to go. And also there'll be plenty of other videos that will be uploaded within the time. So, let's get started now with the movie, shall we? So like my last video, we're going to talk about the pre-production of this movie before it came out and kind of give my retrospect and my thoughts about what I was thinking when this movie was announced, as it came out, and how I feel right now. So I had to kind of think about this movie. I barely remember some of the details when it was first announced, but I really had to think about it and go do a little research, and it was 2014. Shane Black taking the director role this time, who played Hawkins in the original Predator. He had also done Iron Man 3, so that's a little concerning at this point, but the thing is, I wasn't trying to get ahead of myself and be overly judgmental on this movie. I mean, hell, it hadn't even came out yet. I'm not one of those people that like to jump to conclusion too fast. However though, I didn't know what we were getting into. The movie was described as a sequel, not a reboot. I'm not for certain, but I've heard people say this movie predates Predators in the timeline, but I've seen articles state otherwise. I always assume that Predators took place in 2010 because of the weaponry, and not to mention, the weapons never looked too advanced. It was never even talked about the year in the movie. I should also mention that this movie takes place on Earth, and Predators took place on a completely different planet, so the movies really don't overlap each other. There's no issues with them contradicting each other in continuity of the Predator timeline. The first still I ever saw for this movie, I was really caught off guard, and I don't think it was the only one. It looked like we had Predators once again teaming with humans, and fighting another bigger force. A lot of confusion, I didn't know what was going on, I was kind of worried, but I want you to keep in mind there's more on this soon. For the next 4 years I waited. I avoided spoilers too much. I watched a little bit of trailers, but I didn't dive too much into them because by this point, I was kind of burned out on trailers. Certain trailers, like say Alien vs. Predator 2, had given so much away of the movie, and that's concerning when they're giving away so much. It's almost like they're basically saying, the rest of this movie sucks. We're just going to give you all the best, you know. So one positive I was excited about, this movie was shot under an $88 million budget, a bit more of the $40 million given to Predators. Before this movie came out, I was already plenty nervous. Reshoots, delayed, shifted release dates from March, February, pushed to August, eventually September. You see how this is concerning? Nonetheless, I went into this movie giving it the benefit of the doubt, hoping this would be something different and special that would launch the Predator series into uncharted territory for the better, not into the water to drown. Predators was a nice step forward, but this movie just went backwards. With 107 minutes, this movie felt forced all around, with the jokes like,
Guys, I get it. You want to know if someone fucked an alien.
This is the dumbed down humor this movie has, and it feels like it's hard to take it serious at moments. I understand it was supposed to have a little comedic relief element, but sometimes it destroys the movie, when it could be so much more serious and the tone could be different, you know? Remember how in Independence Day, we had Will Smith's character, who literally punched an alien right in the face, just jacked him right in his jaw and said, "Welcome to Earth." But the movie still maintained the serious scenes, like the lab scene, when the alien was telling him, or the harvester I should say, was telling him that he wanted them all to die. You felt some tension there. You don't feel it here. And for the record, I'm not going to act like Independence Day was the most intelligent movie to ever grace the screens of the theaters. I'm just using it as an example because it did things correctly. This movie doesn't even try. It's like Shane Black said, "Hey, remember those 2 funny lines from Predator? Well, let's make a movie all around that just strings on my jokes completely with a motley crew of people all thrown together. Ah, wait, but that's not all. This mirrors Alien Resurrection, I should say. I don't think it was intentional, but the movies have a lot in common. The only thing is Alien Resurrection had a good movie soundtrack and score, and the fact that it was shot pretty damn good at certain points, like the underwater scene, as I said. This movie actually makes Alien Resurrection look like a masterpiece. It's a really spotty movie that's all over at points, especially after the lab scene. That's where I lose my interest. I can follow it in the beginning a bit, but eventually it just drops off. The Predator ship crash lands on Earth and we meet Quinn McKenna, a character that I really don't care about. Him and his team are attacked by the fugitive Predator on another mission they're on. Hold this thought please, this will be revisited soon. McKenna manages to stop the Predator and recover various parts of his armor and just casually mails it off. Fast forward, our fugitive Predator is examined after it's captured, and the movie makes references to Predator 2, which, hey, that's a nice positive, a nice little wink. that it has also towards the Alien and Predator movies. What's funny about this is there's kind of like a little divide between the relationship in the Alien and Predator movies for obvious reasons. The Predator series acknowledges the AVP series and the events of all that happening. However, though, in turn, though, the Alien series has stopped acknowledging the AVP series, and you can tell that's obviously because Ridley Scott could care less. You know, he's making his own movie. His intention was never to cross it over with another franchise, and I feel like he's been kind of making up the Alien prequel series as it goes, you know. We'll get into that more. There's some ups and downs on that. Moving forward, our angry captive fugitive predator breaks loose and gives us the shining beacon this movie has to offer. I love the lab scene. It really feels like a Predator movie there, and it feels like something we're going to get into, something I want to get invested into, but that all takes a quick turn eventually. And I mean, that is a quick, sharp turn that's going to happen because we get introduced further to this, I'll call it the Assassin Predator, because that's what it's billed as on the action figure line. I believe they call it an Ultimate Predator, you know. It's the bigger, badder version of the original Predator, you know, kind of like in nearly most movie series, they have to be like, hey, remember how deadly the original version is and how much you love that? Well, guess what? We got a bigger, badder version that's stronger, and it's going to kill that version. Yeah, this reminds me of Jurassic Park. I could withstand the Berserker in the classic Predator because I felt like that was kind of building on to the Berserker Predator, and I was a little bit invested with how the Berserker Predator, or the Super Predator, and the regular Predators kind of had a race war going on. This is different, though. It's less intriguing. Like, there's a storyline. Get ready. Get ready for what I'm about ready to spew out because it's confusing. No, scratch that. It's just downright unnecessary. So this movie, what it dives into is the Assassin Predator is hunting humans, and it's harvesting their DNA and other creatures like the strongest hunters, creating a exoskeleton of armor to protect itself, like super armor. Then you got McQueen's son, Rory, who's autistic. It portrays him in a superhuman light, which is kind of odd because apparently he can decode alien technology and languages. I gotta pause real quick because I feel like I want to vomit from all the info that I'm just kind of spewing out right now. I've only seen this movie twice, and I really disliked it. I really dislike it a lot. I feel like the whole autism thing in the movie, I feel like they wanted to say something positive or kind of produce a really nice message, but it came off the wrong way. I don't think it was handled well at all. And I'm not the only one that believes this. This is like something that's universally agreed on with this movie. So my thing is, what's this movie supposed to be? Is it supposed to spotlight autism in a positive light? Or is it a, hey guys, we gotta save the Earth, we're headed towards extinction because of climate change? Is it supposed to be a Predator movie? Tell me what's going on! From cast to ideas this movie has, it is bland, and don't get me started with how much I hate the Predator hounds. What was wrong with the last design? This looked cool. It looked like a species the Predator had captured and used to hunt. This looks like the Predator found another species and just bred with it until this dropped out one day. Who seriously designed this and said, hey, it needs dreads and a Predator-looking face, otherwise our viewers don't know that's a Predator hound. Why did they have to have Predator features? Imagine if dogs had human features. They look like spaghetti from Aqua Teen Hunger Force. I've still got more of the Butcher. I still got more ammo. So at the end, it is revealed that Fugitive was supposed to give the humans Predator killer tech, so the humans had a fighting chance. Okay, why was he attacking? Why was he running? No. We have a terrible Iron Man Predator. Thank you, Shane Black. This reminds me of Independence Day 2, where the Spear randomly shows up attempting to help humans, only to get shot at like an idiot. And near the end, it offers the humans new tech to join a galactic resistance to attack the Harvesters, in a movie we're never gonna get. This movie makes my head hurt. The fact that it even happened, it's sad, honestly. It is currently 2 a.m., and this is where I am, critiquing one of the worst movies in the entire Alien and Predator franchise. Let's also acknowledge there was enough damage that was done there because they wanted to go completely off the rails and connect it to the Alien series and feature, get this, Ellen Ripley cameo. Yes, this was an idea. This was an unused idea that apparently they were going to have a Predator killer Ripley wearing a facehugger breather mask. Apparently Sigourney Weaver wasn't even going to play Ripley, and they would have used a stunt double instead. And why do I feel like they would have CGI'd it, kind of like in Rogue One? I feel like this is the move they would have done. I bet you anything when they came up with this idea, they thought this is going to be groundbreaking. This is going to bring the franchises back together, and we're going to have an epic crossover series between the Alien and Predator series that we should have had in the first place. But boy, they didn't need to go there. Like I said before, damn Chief, this ain't it. Not after the garbage I had to set through in the first place. This movie is just bad. That's probably an understatement, you know, I'm putting it lightly. I'm sorry to anybody that likes it. I just can't find myself lying and saying that I enjoyed it. It's hard to watch. It's all over the place. It makes no sense. If you watch this, don't expect fireworks. It doesn't hold up well, and it's a miserable attempt to breathe life back into the Predator series. I'll admit, I also feel salty when I watch the Halloween series because that series got it right. If you're going to reboot a series, that's how you do it. This is not it. Alright, so that took some time to get through, but we made it to the figure line. At least I can say for the Predator 2018 movie, the figure line on Neca's part was worth it. So obviously the Fugitive Predator was the key figure that I wanted to own. He was given the ultimate treatment right at the gate, well worth it figure, complete with removable wrist blades, wrists themselves, and swappable heads. Okay, so I want to touch on something from my last video. If you remember, you probably saw that the Super Predators, I had the little plastic wraps around the wrists of the Predators. This is because initially when I opened these figures, I took those wraps and I threw them away, and then I regretted it big time. Because after that, I realized how prone the wrist blades were to falling out. A simple nudge, a simple bump, a simple shake would just cause them to fall out. So you're probably thinking, okay, so what does that have to do with the Fugitive Predator? Why are you bringing it up? Well, the reason why I bring it up is because if they do give these Super Predators the ultimate treatment, they need to use the Fugitive Predator as a blueprint. How the wrist blades are applied. You simply just plug it in the top. They are nice and snug. I've never had any issues. So this is something I won't look at, you know, when they tool the Super Predators once we reach that, you know, and I know that will be a while, but I'm just throwing that out there. It's a wonderful figure all around. I'm glad they didn't reuse any parts on the City Hunter or the Jungle Hunter for that matter. It's totally original parts all around. It wasn't the only Fugitive we were dealt. In fact, we were also dealt a Lab Escape variant, which is one of my favorites that I nearly passed on. Normally, I don't care for these variant figures, you know, but this one had a few key features that I liked. I feel like the paint apps were in fact superior to the original version. They also gave us the battle damaged helmet. I love the interior sculpt on this one. You know, it's always cool when they get in there and give us an interior sculpt, even if we don't see it on certain masks in the movie. A big selling point for this figure was one of the alternate heads had LED lights in it. And this one I actually go ahead and put on my original Fugitive. That's how I display it usually on the shelves. Stuff like this is just novelty fun. I don't have a lot of figures that have these LEDs on them. I do have the Lost Predator. That's the only other figure that I believe that I have in my collection. And then for that, of course, you have the Thermal Fugitive, which I don't have. I'm not too big on these thermal figures. Nothing wrong with anybody that gets them. I just choose to draw the line right here with these figures. You know, obviously, you know, I purchased a bunch of different variants, like the Camouflage, Berserker, and Falconer. But this just isn't my taste. Next figure we gotta cover, and this is funny because when I saw this movie in theaters, I was thinking, okay, when they make a figure of him, there's gonna be a problem. Like, I saw the heels of the Assassin Predator, and I was thinking, they better put a stand in there, because if they don't, he's gonna be so problematic, and he's gonna be leaning against other figures. Well, guess what? That was correct. Okay, so I don't blame Neca entirely, because I understand Neca wants to duplicate the movie accuracy of what we're seeing on the screen. I want to give some blame to the creature design team, you know, that designed the feet on this creature. I do not know why it warranted feet like this. The Neca, on their part, they could have remedied it by throwing in a stand. Around the same time, the Newborn came out. They had no problem throwing in a stand, and that figure was about the same price. Now, I've talked about stands a lot, but it's just one of those things. I feel like there are some figures that absolutely need them when they're sold. There were two versions of this figure. The first one that had the dark blue paint apps, which is supposed to be like the armored version is what they build it as. Great mold, it really is. Wonderfully sculpted figure. I love what they did with the leg articulation. It doesn't wear as much, you know, because of that. So when you're moving the legs around, it has these like ratchet joints. So that's a big positive on this figure. Then there was the second version that was released about a year later. This was a Walmart exclusive. It kind of had like a green and yellow coloration. I actually like this one more. Because of the paint apps and the way it's done, it makes the mold pop even more. Like, I think it's superior. Just look at the spikes on the face. Both figures were given the exact same accessories. I kind of argue a little bit that I believe the second release needed a exclusive accessory as it's kind of a selling point. They could have gave it, you know, like the skull and spine combination that we see on the poster of the movie, and that was also what was on the cover of the actual Walmart version. So I think there's missed opportunity adding that in there. So the only other things I can think of that Neca dipped out on this movie would have to be the ending Predator Killer technology, and then for that the Hounds, which I really don't care they skipped out on those. I think this would be severely unpopular, so I think there's reasons they're not touching that, because they know that would be shelf warmer material. So we got two more figures to talk about in this, and now remember the two military Predators we saw in the tank earlier? Yes, These two were kind of forgotten. You know, they were supposed to be in the movie originally. They had a part that was filmed or that was going to be shot, but ultimately, they were scrapped from the movie. Now, the only reason we got these figures likely is because Neca probably had them in production around the time that they found out that this was being reshot and this was being scrapped. So, by the time the movie came out and we didn't see them and they were nowhere to be found in the movie, you know, Neca's basically like, okay, we have these figures, might as well just go ahead and release them. You know, they were already in production, so there's no sense to let them go to waste. It's an interesting part of the movie's lost history, you know, that was supposed to be there, we know about, in those scenes that popped up way in the early days of the movie's productions. So they are called the Emissary Predators 1 and 2, and at first glance, yes, they look silly. I'm curious how this would all played out in the movie. We'll never know, but these figures are just entertaining to look at, and I love the little accessories they have too, the weapons specifically. They both have their own masks, not all that different from the Fugitive Predator really, if you were to ask me. Their armor is a little different, has small differences. On the shelves, just sitting there, you know, you really don't realize it. And then later you kind of look at them up close and you start realizing some of the small, minor differences. These are fun figures, you know, if you know the history and why they are not in the movie. You know, if you don't really pay attention to stuff like that, you might see them on the shelf and kind of think, okay, that's kind of weird, you know, what the hell's with that, just random, you know. But it's a fun part of missing history, you know, and I welcome them to the collection. This breaks down this long retrospect in this review of this movie. Thanks for joining me also. We have the AVP series coming next, and then after that the Alien prequel series, so stay tuned.